This is a submission to the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. It is in regards to case 2023-00465, which is about Linda McGillis committing fraud.
The power of suggestion is a very powerful influence as long as we have five physical senses. I want to reiterate that. Suggestion is a psychogenetic base, a psychological process of which one person or multiple persons guides, directs the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors of another person or masses of people.
Well, let's start off by just playing Linda saying she has a degree in psychology.
That's what my intention and motivation always is to bring awareness. And me, I specialize in the mind. Not only in my physical old life, I have a degree in psychology, but the subconscious mind, the psychogenic foundation of all aspects, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and how it influences our health, how it influences, everything influences everything. One thing about counseling, because I used to be a licensed psychologist.
Those are Linda's own words. Her own personal assistants have confirmed that she was telling everyone she was a licensed psychologist. She used this lie to profit immensely. She's a millionaire now. She has tons of assets, and this all started with a nonprofit that started as an LLC. The nonprofit was it's a bogus company. It was set up illegally, and the services rendered by this nonprofit were therapy.
Through that, I have been guided to create the nonprofit and create the course in the sessions that I do and everything, and all that abundance would be applied to acquiring land.
Linda's credentials in psychology depend on who you talk to. They range from she had a master's degree to she was literally in a full body cast in a hospital where she got her doctorate. But we know that this is what she was telling everyone and that she was profiting from it. Spiritual. I mean, she was like a gas station worker for like a lot of the time in Great Falls.
Restaurant, like waitress. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what she was doing. I mean, she told some people she was like a therapist or she worked in psychology or something.
Yeah, it's all lies. She has a doctorate.
Yeah,
all of these things. Yeah,
I've heard.
She's got a doctorate in. Yeah, it's all lies. It's all lies. She is so blatant about her lies. And see, when I was there, when you're there, not just listening to her on the phone and her presenting who she wants, and you're there 18 hours a day, you start to see how many lies there are.
And I guess, I mean, what I'm curious about too is that Linda told a lot of people that she had like qualifications to.
Yeah, so when we started the first talk, she had a lot of qualifications. She said she was certified in a lot of different fields. She went to college. She had the ability for a counselor, with a spirit specialist. I mean, the list went on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. But she was saying that she had like she had like studied psychology and had a degree in psychology or something like that.
Oh yeah. She went to college. She got a master's degree. She said, I mean, she had everything that you can ask for.
Did she say that she was a Did she say that she was a psychologist to you, or was this something like in the Facebook group?
No, she said it to me, and she said it in her Facebook group. There's a few videos that she said it on. I don't know if they're still up or not, but
Linda does know a few things about psychology. This is dangerous, in my opinion. The way that she applies this stuff has an effect too, because she's not just somebody's guru. She's saying that she's a psychologist, which makes the stuff even more dangerous.
mean, she was there for 4 weeks with us, but she was gone within 2 hours. She just walked out of that place. She stayed in touch with me for a short period. I was able to like keep a bridge open for people at one point. And she told me that her psychiatrist told her she was suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. It was at that point that I shared this information with Linda, because that's what we did. She'd have us talk to somebody, and then she'd be in that room when they were talking. And she says, why don't you tell her I'm a trained psychologist? And I did. And that was the last time that I was able to speak with this woman. I don't know that she ever got herself back.
We have been influenced in every way to make to feel crazy. You know, I remember going to, for a child custody case, they sent us both parents to a psychiatrist to take the test, right? And they don't take into consideration anything. It's straight by the book. And if you say something wrong this way or wrong this way, you're automatically crazy. And then they start giving you medicine. And the medicine they give you, it makes you even crazier, makes you have nightmares or this, that, and the other. You know, I can go to the doctor or anything and tell them something that's going on with my body, and they'll turn around and tell me I'm crazy.
This is way more than just a lie to make a few bucks. Linda used this idea, this concept that she was a psychologist in the worst possible ways. People are in prison. People have been psychologically tortured. I believe one woman on the ranch is a human trafficking victim.
You know, just
I don't
having
do
this.
that.
No,
It's like I talk to the hand.
I didn't think so. But you know, you know, we've often done that. You know, we might have another person in the room, and we got someone on the phone that we're really not even wanting to talk to, or whatever you're saying is.
Roll the eyes like they can see you.
We're like, and we go like this to the phone. You know, I mean, it's like the crazy things we do with our communication.
Yeah,
You know?
totally.
Like, I don't know how we got here, but well, I do know how we got here, but I mean, made it thus far,
Mhm.
and I'm grateful for every breath.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Okay. About rolling the eyes, you know, making faces when you're speaking with someone that cannot see your face. As like Elvira pointed earlier, you know, it's becoming, even that communication is becoming true, despite if people is looking at you or not.
Mhm.
Your sensory feelings are being wide open, that you can catch that. So the thing is just acknowledge it, you know, but sometimes, or the majority of the time, I don't acknowledge it because I know for a fact that what I'm saying is just a bullshit. So it's not that people reject what I'm saying. It's because I'm saying the same thing over and over again. And it's tired. People get tired of that. One of the things that it was pointed to me, and it has been pointed to me for 3 years already, is ask yourself why. Why you do what you do? Why do you move forward and then hold down? And just justifying by the obvious is not enough.
Yeah.
It has been really rough for me. Really, I wonder, and I ask myself if I really true want the life that I have right now. because my actions and my words say otherwise on every breath. If all this time I've been lying to myself for that. And I just pretend. If I'm getting better in pretending, instead of mastering the heart, I'm mastering the mind.
I think you're just digging into a deeper layer of yourself.
Now, Mariana is not an American citizen, and she doesn't seem to be doing this like crossing the border and coming back thing that a lot of the other foreign members do. She's like a constant in these videos. And it, more than anybody else, she's the one who like questions what they're doing, why she's there, and if she has a choice. Like, I see by the language that Mariana was using in that video, to me it seems like she wasn't just having a bad day. And there seems to be this confusion of like, who is making this decision? Remember the first time we saw Mariana, she was being punished for wanting to see her parents in Mexico when they were down there. Like, why is this adult woman not able to make that kind of choice for herself?
You are not important. Nothing about you, the individual. To become an embodied ascended master, and I am intergalactic alliance of masters, to become an I am, you have to become nameless. And that means no identification. Can you become so non-important to yourself that you become nameless? So I'm going to let Mariana chit chat because she's trying to go into a polarity swing and her ego's bouncing. So I'm going to let her chit chat with you, just so she don't go into that polarity swing.
For me, everything has been mental. So yeah, it's just kind of not being able to see my parents, or like, I really don't know if I can say not being able, or I really don't want to do it. Yeah, at this time of the stage, I really don't know. But yeah, it has been challenge. It has been challenge.
She led us to believe that she could get us all sound-minded. What was the book? The Master's Key. She had them all studying this book, The Master's Key, or something like that, Siren. Every one of us had some emotional instability, and she promised us that she could help us balance out ourselves. I went to her because I was emotionally broken with all the things I'd been to. I thought she was a psychiatrist. I thought she was a psychologist. I thought she would work with me rather than against me.
It's always,
No, keep going. I cut you off.
yeah, no, she always works against. She'll take everything that you need help with and twist it and use it to her advantage and not help you. And it just ends up like just beating you down more.
Yes.
You know, you look at how many people hear voices in their heads. You know, you have visions and you try to talk to your therapist or a doctor or something, and they send you to a therapist, they send you to a psychiatrist, they send you to a psychologist, and they, in that, just talking to them, they convince you that those voices aren't there, that you're just hearing things, that it's not real. You know, you go to addictions and group therapies. I can't think of Al-Anon, I think it's called.
Al-Anon.
Anything like that, and or a therapist or a psychologist, and they teach you to be comfortable in an abusive situation. They teach you to just talk about it and get it out, but they never really give you the solutions to go deeper, to see beyond that. They influence you to be comfortable in that, at the same time influencing that truly it's not accurate. How we have this group, collective, mankind, that we have to have somebody else telling us and making decisions for us. You look at doctors. They have knowledge because they've gone to school for 8, 10, 12 years to specialize in something. And yet, when you go to them because they have that knowledge, they turn around and they want to this, tell you that this isn't wrong, even though you know your body better. They influence you that they know your body better, yet that a machine knows your body better than you. And we accept it. We accept that they are an authority, even though it's called practicing medicine. They are a practicing physician, and yet we have been influenced not to listen to ourselves. And when we, as not only individuals, but as a society, can really observe ourselves and how we have adopted what everybody just tells us we have to.
Linda was committing fraud when she was telling people she had a degree in psychology and that she was a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. Not only was she doing that, but she was telling the people who were coming to her for support not to see real professionals. The real professionals are bad. Linda has a track record of abusing her clients, and she's made a ton of money while doing this. What's on the screen right now is a wire transfer from one of Linda's clients to somebody she thought was a therapist. And this is for $35,000. Now, from stories I've heard from other clients of Linda's, like, this kind of deposit isn't that unusual when there is a wealthy client. But how Linda got the real money is through a form of therapy that, well, it's illegal.
But I also wanted to tell you about, because I was there when she first started the ranch, there were to be no drugs or alcohol there. But I don't know how it came to be, but she allowed a mushroom ceremony. Have you heard of that?
Oh, were you there for that?
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit, did you take mushrooms?
I did not. No, there was a woman that she does ceremonies, and she was allowed to bring the mushrooms and do the ceremony. I was in the room the whole time. I saw everything. Linda was in the house because there's a shop. So the ceremony was done in the shop. And I don't do psychedelics. I don't smoke pot, nothing like that. And so I was asked if I wanted to just be there and hold space, right? And so I said, sure. And so the first ceremony, because there was 2, the first ceremony, and I don't even know anything about mushrooms. So I'm just telling you, how it happened at the ranch. The first ceremony was done with 5 grams, which is called a hero dose, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't know if you know anything about them or not, but yeah. You do. Okay. So I guess that was a lot anyway on its own. Right. And everybody had their experience, whatever. And then the next day, we were out on the back porch as always, and everybody was told they failed because Linda said that it was an opportunity to expand, open your heart fully, and be on, trajectory to ascend. Well, everybody failed. Nobody did it, and everybody was chastised. And then some of the people left. And then Elvira was sitting on the back porch, and Linda was in her face telling her she failed, and she was getting ready to go back to Australia, and that she was going to do another one, or else she was going to just live in eternal hell or something. She was coerced, and she had her do 10 grams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a
And
ton.
I was there. I saw the whole thing. I was in the room.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And it was extreme. She was screaming, freaking out, kicking her legs. She had bruises all over her knees. And Linda wasn't there in the room ever until that night for the 10 grams. And we're sitting there just holding space for Elvira. And the door opened and Linda walked in, and it was really odd. She had on a zip-up hoodie sweatshirt, but she had her hood up. And it was just super unusual, and her head down. And she came walking over and she sat in a chair, right? And when she looked up, I looked at her, and the face that I saw was demonic. Her eyes, everything.
Uh-huh.
It took me back. I was like, what the heck, right? And she stood up. She went over Elvira, did some hand motions and like whooshed something away. And then she never said a word to us, and she turned around and left. And I don't know if it was that night or the next day, she told us all that we killed Elvira's spirit, and she crossed it over and then gave Elvira her light. So she was like part Linda now. She was little Linda. That's what she called her.
Uh-huh.
And Elvira had 3 months to take care of her shit, or else Linda was going to take her light back and she would just die.
And then Elvira bought the ranch, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Huh. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it sounds like a way to persuade somebody, into...
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, it's a really messed up thing to do. So here's Elvira talking about the nonprofit before this mushroom experiment.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Elvira.
Jerry here wants you to speak about the nonprofit and the gang and what your vision is. So we have a vision. We have a beautiful collective vision of creating this amazing property, buying the property and creating this amazing place for people to come together. And at the moment, we have a nonprofit organization that's established called Profundity Yours. And so please do check it out. It's profundityyours.com. And what we've just actually recently launched one of our very first programs, trainings. It's called the Reconstruct Thyself. It is actually really brilliant. So stay tuned for when we next run the course. And we're all about bringing people together and sharing our wisdom and you can add more, Linda. You're so good at this.
So Linda's about to give an explanation for this nonprofit, which is it's bogus. There's no way what she's saying would fall under like a non-taxable entity. And then what she's going to do is talk about surrogate families, or surrogate families will come up. And what that means is she's saying like your earth family, the people that you love, the people that support you, like your family, like we don't have any use for them. This is a place for like the true family. This is it's all about family separation, which goes on in every group like this. And then Linda is going to make she has a prediction about the future.
5 years ago, I was given a download and a blueprint by a creator to build a city of lights. And in that, Spirit told me it would be called Emerald Spirit Ranch, Emerald Sun City. And that I was to anchor the blueprint in by writing it all down, blah, blah, blah. And that it would be a place because the etheric emerald sun disk is right outside of Galveston in the ocean. And that Texas would become the first, and then that all 144,000 would eventually be guided to come to Texas over the course of the next few years. So, because that is the inception point of the Christed DNA over in the Americas. And in that, America, Canada, North America is Canada and the United States, Central America and South America. It is a replicated mirror of ancient Israel when they split Israel into Israel and Judea. And in that, America spells the I am race. It was the last and it would become the first. And so in that, Spirit guided me to start building and to where I can acquire land, to where it would be a place where all 144,000 would eventually come and be able to, if they didn't have family or this or that, and we would actually all end up gathering together, and that the Emerald Sun City would be a blueprint for the communities that would end up being created all over the world, the community of lights, and that it would be a center point that would be linked to all other city of lights. And so through that, I have been guided to create the nonprofit and create the course in the sessions that I do and everything, and all that abundance would be applied to acquiring land, because once we have land, all 5 basic needs are covered. And if there was, because there are so many light workers, way showers, whatever you need to call yourselves, that their earth surrogate families have shifted and will shift out of their physical presence, because they will no longer have those soul contracts with the surrogate family in the higher dimensional realms, that they would come together with the soul monads, and we would eventually bring all 12 soul monads together as one. And so that this one would be the blueprint that we would eventually have one in every branch out to have one in every state and all over the globe in the different countries. So feel free to give conscious gratitude donations, because it really is for a bigger cause.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what Profundity, yours, the nonprofit, is all about, is building a physical city of lights built upon the foundation of the Emerald Sun. Even if you guys want to donate your love and your blessings, heck, you guys can come join us and physically give us your labor if you want. Help build a garden.
Yeah, we'll need lots of help.
Yeah. We'll need carpenters and electricians to help build, houses and cabins for people, and,
Pipe fitters.
art studio and a music studio and a dance studio. We want all those things, because that's where our creativity, if you will. For me, that's the most beautiful part. Yes, building the ranch and acquiring the land, although Spirit has shown me multiple times that the land would be gifted to us. We're still using any proceeds from anything, the course or anything, to save it to purchase land.
And when Linda is saying here, like, they want donations, like they're asking for donations to this nonprofit for Emerald Sun City, which is the ranch. I don't know, that seems like a strange purpose for a nonprofit in the first place, but she's saying, like, I want there to be this donor. I think Spirit is telling me there's going to be this donor, and we kind of know, we know that Elvira paid for the whole thing and she was that donor, and we have a pretty good idea why she was convinced to buy this for Linda. And once Elvira bought the ranch, it was put into a trust that now Linda has control over. And the reasoning was that, Elvira might flip somehow and kick everybody off the ranch, which that was never going to happen. It was just, Linda wanted that asset. What's unbelievable is that the video you just watched was made in a trailer park. And Linda has this grand vision where all these people can get together, and it's going to be this happy place for people who've gone through trauma. Now, this is an extremely unrealistic plan if somebody told you this and they were living in a trailer park, but we know that it happened. We can see Emerald Sun City in real life. Started in Kempner, Texas. This is in Marietta, Texas. Linda did not work for Emerald Sun City. She did not get a degree for Emerald Sun City, and she told lies to get Emerald Sun City. And because they were pretty open about this mushroom ceremony, I mean, that's real. This is a real story.
So she did. She got in my mind. Is the not the short story? She got in there, and she's been building this since maybe 2012, 2014 in her head. The documentations for this ranch, the people she supposedly handpicked for such a thing. And then I watched her program. People. I watched her take a very mentally weak person and use it to her benefit and gather millions of dollars out of it since I've left there. It's malevolent for certain. Her character is abusive. I found out there was illicit drug use out there, and I'm not a judge or nothing. But she was forcing psilocybin mushrooms on someone, and it caused her a mental breakdown.
I think I might have heard that story. It sounded pretty, and I've never heard anything like it, really.
So it was a first for me. Well, what it did is it pulled me, because I'm an older person, it pulled me back to Manson. It pulled me back to,
Yeah, I
all
guess.
Of them.
Yeah, like the
yeah,
like
kind
dosing
of
people
sort
with
of like,
LSD all the time.
Yeah, so that told me that, she felt out of control, and she was trying to mess up the mind even all the more for this particular human.
She like finds people who like have just gone through like tragedy or some like I think of Dawn, like sort of like identity crisis.
Right.
And that's where she goes to, and it brings me back to like, Linda being this, like, her relationship with her mom and the abuse that she suffered. It's like a way to bring like she has like some intuition about like who to talk to.
Right. Right.
I don't think it's all from like the information that she gathers. I guess that's my...
it is intuitive. By all means, it's intuitive, and she's drawn to us. She was drawn to Susie because of the loss of her mom. She was drawn to me because my son was murdered. My daughter just died, and she was a part of that. She, quote, prayed for her. And that was a scary situation. I mean, I lost her in 2 weeks. I was mentally just gone. I didn't have a dime, though, so she wasn't after me for money. Susie wanted me to mention this. I don't know if it's important, but I'm hood rich, right? I'm just hood rich. I make it by, and I get through, and I know that God has more than provided for me. But when I was down there, and she had convinced me to quit my job here and to travel back and forth, at this point I could come back home for a few weeks, and then I would go to her back again. And I lost track of what I was talking about. Oh, what Susie wanted me to talk about. So she sat down with me on the computer and went to Social Security site, and on her computer she signed me up for Social Security benefits, and I was approved. So I had a whopping $600 and some odd coming to me that she took every month.
Yeah.
That was your income. She took all of her income.
Now I'm going to play a tape that I think is the worst case scenario of fraudulently treating people with trauma. I mean, somehow worse than extorting someone with mushrooms. This is a tape that comes from a man who's in prison for a horrible crime that he admits was ultimately his fault. But he was getting some really bad advice. And that people are sympathetic towards this guy just shows you, and so many people, that something was going on with Linda. Was this stuff that she was saying about being like being a psychologist, did that make you feel like she was more qualified to like work with you? That did you trust her because of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, because I was having problems at the beginning. Like I talked to like maybe 8 different people before I came across her in different fields. And when I came across her, you know, what she talked to me a couple times, understood who I was personally, you know what I mean? Like she understood what I was after, she understood what I believed. And after she got to know me, that's when her magic began to work. That's when she said all the right things. You know what I mean? Then that's when she said, you know, she had all these qualifications. Then she started like being my personal therapist, and it just went from there to something very deep, you know, something very dark.
I mean, it seems like part of the magic of what makes Linda work is that, like, you know, she's somebody who's been through a lot of trauma herself, and she talks about her trauma in the videos. And I think when people are seekers and they have trauma of their own, it's like, hey, this person kind of gets it.
Exactly. You know, I had not a pleasant childhood myself when it came to that, and she connected on all levels. I mean, you know, the world dialed back in my childhood, and to bring up her childhood, you know, just everything. I don't know, everything made sense at the time. Not so much now, but yeah. So,
Do you feel like you got more vulnerable over time? Like more, like in a worse place, maybe?
Yeah. Oh yeah, over time she twisted everything that I believed in. She twisted it in a little sick game, and over time I don't know how cults work, but like, you know, she was my voice, she was my mind, and I had no control but just to listen. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She tried everything in her power to get to go down there, and, you know, and I don't know. She just, you know, after being locked up for 2 years, you know, and I just realized a lot of things, and I felt like you said earlier, I was something she was testing to see how far her abilities can go. I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think she probably found some vulnerability in you. Probably, maybe.
1 minute remaining.
Oh, is this the end of the call?
See, when I first came across her, you know, I was talking to my mom a second ago, is I was having severe panic attacks, and I was tired of it. And I was searching for an answer of why this and that. And then when I came across her, you know, she was telling me that she can help me with a therapist. You know, she can help me dig, you know, deep from my past. And that's how it all began. I didn't leave that part out.
But I mean, would she just like openly talk about, like, would she ever say I'm a psychologist, like, in that group?
Yeah, she was everything in that group.
Okay.
She held nothing back.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like the religious stuff, like she's everything, you know. She's like the reincarnation of Jesus.
You know, so I'm saying she has all the answers. She has, you know, she would say a lot that she has every document that she would need to have to prove that who she is, smart-wise. You know, like I said, a psychiatrist, a therapist. You know, she was all that. You know, she was certified. You know, she's been in college. You know what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, that was her profession. That's what everybody believed that she did on the side. That's how she got her money. She was a professional. Anything you need her to be.
Mm-hmm. I guess I need to know like a little bit about the, like, what was going on like before this like January or whatever, because I have the story in pieces, but like when this happened, like this incident, what was Linda telling you, like in the like whatever time before that, like the like pretty close to like when it happened, like because Linda is like kind of in your ear here.
Well, all right, I see what you're saying. She, like I said, it started on with my wife. This was maybe the first half a year to the first year that I was talking to her when it started on about my wife. You know, and then she made a lot of chaos. Even my wife at times did not like her. You know what I'm saying? She was just changing who I was personally. You know, I was trying to be better. And once that wasn't happening, then I'm not sure how. I think she asked. She asked me one day about my daughter. And my daughter was in the room with me one day when I was having a Facebook thing, whatever you want to call it, video chat.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was listening to it, and my daughter had a lot of same beliefs. You know, she was. This was on her own because she went to church with her mother on a regular basis, but she always had questions about, you know, reincarnation and all this other stuff. But anyway, Lynn had seen that. You know what I mean? So at first, when she was talking to my daughter on the side, sometimes it was about reincarnation. It was all about all that, you know, stuff that was innocent to me at the time. And she knew that she had influence on my own daughter. She basically, she started using, you know, like you would already know, like you was already told that we was married at one time. We were soulmates, you know. It was a glitch in the system that she shouldn't have been my daughter. You know, I didn't quit running from that. You know, I didn't embrace her. And this is at the end, you know, and she was saying the same things to her that at first I didn't know she was saying to her. And then that's when she started pulling us together at the very end. You know, so at the very end, it was more like, oh, wow, it was just, we had this magical life before, and then, you know, all this crazy shit was happening. And, you know, then she pulled her body apart, and that's when it all started to happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, I guess like at this point, like, you know, Linda's in both your heads, sort of.
Yeah, she's in both of our heads saying, you know, this is what God wants. This is how it's supposed to be. You know, we are here to clear energies. We are here to release past life karma. You know, this is what we are here. This is our last life that we get to live. You know, if we don't get it right this time, man, there's no incarnation. You know, he was putting the fear in me. He was putting the fear in her. You know, so, you know, at the very end of it, I just felt like it was something that we both was there, and we was pushed in the feminine instinct. And, you know, and I'm, like I say, at the end of the day, you know, looking back after 2 years, I realized, wow, you know, I felt her so many different ways, but, you know, I can't explain how she took over my mind, man. Like, my thoughts was what she said, and that was it. And
You have 1 minute remaining.
Shit, are you gonna be able to get on the phone again, or is this it? So Linda's like telling the story of like, you know, she's got nothing to do with this, blah blah blah, and then when you got sentenced, Natasha says that Linda was really upset because you didn't get more time than Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand that part myself.
I mean, it's dark. I mean, it's really dark.
Yeah, so it's like she was trying to make my life his, if that makes sense. I called her because I called Linda until it wasn't working. You know, everything she was saying wasn't working out because the things she said would happen, the miracles, you know, the way I feel, nothing was happening. You know what I mean? That's when I called her, and you know, that's when everything kind of started going downhill between me and her. because she had her hypnotized. She was happy, she felt like, she believed that he was in the relationship, but I was still everything. I was still nervous. I was still panicking. I was getting worse. Everything that said what happened wasn't happening. And that's when I was calling the question and everything. That's when Michelle, I think that's when she left.
Like the consequences of Linda pretending to be a therapist, impersonating a therapist, are very extreme.
Yeah, ruined my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was just supposed to be this one magical picture that she had, this play in her head that she was replaying over and over and over. And I just wouldn't.
Oh, sorry.
I cried. I cried. That's when she brought my daughter into it. That's when, before I knew it, my daughter was in love with me. It was horrible, man. It's just something that I wish I could take back. I got to have that conversation with her, when I was calling her about all this. She was telling me, go to the police station. This, had this line memorized, what I was supposed to say, that, I went in there and I said some of it, you know what I mean? And at the end there, I was trying to put my own words in it too, but it just didn't work out. She knew I was vulnerable. She knew I was going to listen to her. She knew she had me. That was her main plan. And somewhere down the line, she got tired of waiting, or she just decided to see how far she could go with this. I don't know. Then Mark come into play, me being a male. I don't know why that, crossed each other the way it did, but she just had it out for me. Admit that, I was wanting to do this my whole life. I was in her children my whole life. She just had this whole thing planned out that I was supposed to say. She was just trying to cover her tracks. And that's why, I really didn't push her name into anything that, I was going in there looking for help. That's why I kept saying, I need help, please help me, please help me, please help me.
Uh-huh.
All I wanted to do all this was to help. She don't want anybody smart. She doesn't want anybody thinking for themselves. She wants somebody that's looking for answers and a way out. And that's what she feeds on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made her an narcissistic, what do you want to call her, but she's good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here proof. Yeah, how many days was it prior to my sentence?
That was just right after you turned yourself in.
Okay, yeah, so it was like matter of days.
You were in a very dark spot, and I would be talking to you, and I could see on your face that you were starting to understand me. Then you'd run off to the other room and call her and come back cold-hearted and telling me I was wrong. That's how much control she had.
Yeah, it's all about control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I guess even from watching a ton of these videos of Linda, I feel like I've developed some phobias, and I'm more superstitious and stuff like that. Like, anything else change in your life like that?
Well, yeah, that here is hearing, and you feel like you have no other choice. But if you, as she says, step as she tells you to do it, and if you don't, I don't know how she did it, man, but she took my panic attacks, twisted it, and used it against me. And she said the right things she knew that I was going to freak out about. You know what I mean?
I've heard the same story from multiple sources, from their different perspectives, I guess. But I'm going to go with Natasha's tape first, because she never had any direct communication with the guy.
But come to find out, the one woman that I was close to, and we both left at the same time, she did eventually leave again. And she's the same woman that Mark physically abused. There's also another story. Do you know about the father who raped his 13-year-old daughter?
No. Who is that?
Yeah. So Linda is responsible for that. She basically told him he was a very mentally unwell man. He's in jail. She, through her I was there. We were sitting in Chick-fil-A drive-through when she got the call from him that he had just, he's going to jail, and for sleeping with his, so because of Linda and the way she works, she convinced this man that he was, in a past life, his daughter was his wife. And so because of this, this man fell in love with his daughter and raped his daughter. And then told Linda, and she said, well, you have to turn yourself in because you had sex with your child. And she said, if you turn yourself in, nothing will happen to you, but you have to, like, absolve yourself. Well, of course, that's not true, because he raped his child under the call of Linda. And, I mean, there's a lot more to the story. Honestly, at the time, I was in such shock, you know, because he's yelling at her, well, I thought you told me I was supposed to, you know, because he fell in love with his daughter. I mean, really sick stuff. And this is the kind of people that she calls in, because she claims to be Jesus. You know, of course, Jesus' story is that he was with the worst of the worst, right? Prostitutes and tax collectors and yada, yada. And so she does the same. And she's the one that loves these sick people. And so she was really upset because he got less jail time than Mark. And, you know, she told everybody that Mark was her, she used to say it was her fiance, and they weren't even boyfriend, girlfriend. She had bought herself her own ring. He just used her. She would send him money in the past before jail, and she gave him a home, and she was wildly in love with him.
Linda's tapes are riddled with her giving people terrible advice, medical advice about their prescriptions, telling them not to see their doctors. But here, this particular set, like this crazy circumstance, like this is something that Linda talks about all the time, or something you could gather from the stuff Linda talks about. And I'm just going to play you two examples I found in less than 10 minutes.
Your fear is shaping your daughter's choice because you're the dominant DNA. And instead of you, because we've had this conversation over the past couple months. Oh yeah, every day. Instead of you taking and making it not personal, stepping outside of the story and dealing with your fear of loss, your fear of death, your fear of something is controlling you outside of yourself, you keep feeding it. You're not applying your awareness, honey. And in the process, now you're dragging your daughter into your fear, if you will. Let your daughter make her own choice. You know, talk to her, give her all angles of information, of perspective, rather than just yours, what you feel is the truth of it. Again, make it not personal. Every single one of us have been enslaved by our parents. Oh, yeah. Why? We live out our parents' energetic nightmare. Why? Because they shaped and formed and molded us. So a conscious parenting, if you will, requires us to, in every moment, to apply our awareness of multidimensionality and look at how we're enslaving our children the same way.
Again, everybody is on their own level of awareness. God does not judge. Spirit in no way judges. Spirit accepts everything and everyone, wherever they are. Just because you go out and murder somebody or smoke crack or go have sex with a prostitute or whatever it may be, God is not judging you. God, Spirit, whatever it may be, is allowing you to experience what you need to experience to bring you back to unity, to bring you back to your heart. Now, does that make murders, rapists, drug addicts, thugs, whatever word you want to use, make them bad people? Ask yourselves that, sweet ones. No, it doesn't make them bad people. It is the ego mind that makes them bad people. Sweet ones, I can guarantee you, and please, again, go within and validate it. You judge Hitler. You judge rapists. You judge murderers. You judge pedophiles. You judge our government. You judge each other. Ask yourselves why. What makes you any better than any of them? And what makes any of them better than you? It's these observations, sweet ones, that will clue you in to where you still hold yourself in separation. That you still are attached to beliefs. Because, sweet ones, you have been Hitler. You've also been the ones Hitler murdered. Sweet ones, you have been a rapist and you have been raped. You have been a murderer and you have been the one murdered. You have been a pedophile, a child molester, a child abuser. And you have been the one abused, molested, and hurt. You have been all things. And the reason you have been all these things is so you could experience the polarity of both. And the purpose of that in your past lives and this one was for you to give each of you the opportunity to live the polarity, because only by living that polarity are you able to truly understand in the physical form or linear time, if you will, the true nature of all that you are, that which is love.
I feel like there's a really compelling case here that Linda has committed the worst case of fraud by impersonating a therapist that you could imagine. I mean, that last story about Joseph, it's almost it's worse than if you impersonated a therapist, told a client to kill themselves, and then they killed themselves. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. If you need any more material, I can provide it to you. I can, like I've said before, provide original copies of everything that I have with timestamps to make your job as easy as possible. But I believe it is time for this cycle of abuse to end.